Hi, I'm Robin.
And I'm Chris. Together we're the Gen X couple.
Hey guys.
Take one. Hello, everyone.
Welcome back. Today we are going to dive into a fascinating slice of history where conflict, creativity, and stubbornness literally took shape in brick and wood. We're talking about spite houses today. Yes, spite, S-P-I-T-E, spite houses. What's a spite house, you ask? They're buildings that were constructed not just for shelter, but to respond to disputes with neighbors, family, or even the city. Some are pretty clever, some are outrageous, and all of them tell stories about human emotion, pride, and persistence.
Exactly. Most of us deal with conflicts by talking, negotiating, or moving on. But some people decide to build their grievances into the world. And the result? Homes, buildings, and walls that still stand today as lasting records of personal and social disputes. Each one has its own story, and some of them are truly extraordinary.
Yeah, so let's start with the Skinny House in Boston, because that's where we're from.
And we've seen this
We've seen this. It's right across the street. It's in the North End. It's right across the street from the Copp's Hill burial ground. So you can still see it. It's right on Hull Street in Boston, number 44 Hull Street in Boston. And it's actually one of the most famous spite houses in the world. It was built in the late 1800s following a dispute between two brothers over inherited property in Boston's North End, which is a really dense working class neighborhood where every inch of land mattered. If you've ever been there, you know it's jam-packed. And the older brother had built a house that blocked sunlight and limited access to the lot the younger brother expected to use. In a time before electric lighting and modern ventilation, losing sunlight wasn't just inconvenient. It affected laundry, airflow, health, and overall livability.
So the younger brother purchased a tiny leftover strip of land squeezed between the two existing buildings and decided to build a house on it. The house was only about 10 feet wide at its narrowest point, but the narrowness didn't stop it from being functional. The design made clever use of vertical space with multiple floors and compact rooms, maximizing the tiny footprint it had. By building here, he secured his legal right to the property and created a permanent visible presence.
Yeah, and the feud itself was more than just sibling rivalry. It was about inheritance fairness, property value, and the practical need for sunlight and space. In the crowded North End, land was scarce, so blocking a neighbor's light or access was a significant disadvantage. The Skinny House allowed the younger brother to reclaim I'm pulling a Chris, to reclaim what he was entitled to while making a clear statement. He would not be ignored or outmaneuvered.
Yes, the house reflects the architectural creativity required in tight urban spaces. Staircases, doors, and room layouts were adapted to fit a structure barely wider than a modern hallway.
Thank you.
Despite the extreme constraints, the house functioned as a home, and it solved a very practical problem while also making the dispute visible to everyone who passed by.
Mm-hmm. So, like we said, today you can still see the Skinny House. It's still there. It's a tourist attraction. It's a historic landmark. And it stands as a record of how inheritance disputes and urban density shaped creative solutions in architecture. Every narrow wall and slanted room tells a story of legal rights, resourcefulness, and the lengths that people would go to protect what was theirs.
And the Skinny House isn't just a quirky curiosity. It's a real example of how practical problems, family disagreements, and limited space led to a clever and lasting architectural solution. And it was just recently sold a couple years ago for over $1 million.
Yeah, well,
so
that's a good neighborhood.
People are still living there.
Yeah, people do live there. There's always a car parked in the driveway. And yeah, you guys, do I have a picture of it on my phone?
You should.
I know I've taken a picture of it. It really is seriously scary.
It is a great location, though.
It's a perfect location.
Walking
so much
distance
food.
to everything.
Yeah, walking distance to Faneuil Hall.
The garden.
The Boston Garden. even the aquarium, like everything. It's a really good spot.
Yes.
So if I think of it, I'll post a picture. If I don't think of it, then Google it. It'll come right up. So the next house we're going to talk about is the Hollinsbury Spite House in Alexandria, Virginia. Chris and I have been to Alexandria, but I don't even think I knew that this was here until I started researching this.
Yeah,
so if we get back, we'll have to take a look. So anyway, the Hollinsbury Spite House was built in 1830. John Hollinsbury owned a property that backed onto a narrow alley, which over time had become a heavily used shortcut for pedestrians, horse-drawn carriages, and deliveries. The constant traffic disrupted his family's daily life. It invaded their privacy, made noise, and even posed some safety hazards. Hollinsbury tried asking neighbors and passersby to stop, but they just ignored him. Probably the same thing that would happen today if somebody asked him to stop. And basically, all the pedestrians left him with no easy way to protect his property.
So, faced with this repeated intrusion, Hollinsbury decided to use his land to solve the problem permanently. He built a narrow brick house only 7 feet wide and 25 feet deep right in the middle of the alley. The walls even still show gouges from carriage wheels, evidence of the traffic that originally caused the dispute. And unlike other spite houses, this one wasn't intended to reclaim sunlight or prove ownership. It was purely functional, a barrier to protect the family home from constant disturbance.
The feud was straightforward but persistent. The alley was a practical problem that affected everyday life. Like we said, deliveries, people cutting through, horses clumping by, and they were really close to the back of the house. By building in the alley, Hollinsbury solved the problem immediately, creating a permanent solution that didn't rely on the neighbors' cooperation or city intervention. The house ensured that his family could live with privacy and safety for the years to come.
And architecturally, the narrow dimensions required clever interior planning. Despite only being 7 feet wide, the house functioned as a home with usable rooms and staircases fitted into the compact layout. Every element was dictated by the constraints of the space, showing how practical design could meet very specific needs. While small was entirely effective at accomplishing its goal, stopping alley traffic from intruding on Hollinsburg property.
And today, the Hollinsbury Spite House is a historic landmark and a reminder of how disputes could leave lasting marks on a neighborhood. It demonstrates how practical problems in densely built cities could inspire permanent, visible solutions. Every brick and narrow wall tells the story of a family asserting control over their property in a busy urban setting, showing that ingenuity often comes from necessity.
And it's remarkable that the house still stands nearly 200 years later, continually blocking the alley and telling its story. The Hollinsbury Spite House proves that even small plots of land can be used strategically to solve disputes. It's a lasting record of a very practical solution to a neighborhood conflict, preserved in architecture for generations to see.
Yeah. And now we're going to move to Alameda, California, to look at the story of Charles Froling and the... Is it Alameda? Yeah, it's Alameda Spite House. So, Froling originally owned a large piece of land, but the city decided to take a significant portion of it to build a road, leaving him with only a narrow, oddly shaped wedge of property. The sudden reduction in usable land created frustration, not just because of the loss, but because the remaining space was barely functional for building a home. Then a neighbor approached him and offered to buy what was left for a very low price, likely assuming that he would be desperate to sell. This combination of city intervention and the opportunistic neighbor offer set the stage for the feud.
So rather than sell his remaining property, Froling decided to use it creatively. He built a tall, narrow house about 10 feet wide and 20 feet high, maximizing the tiny wedge of land. The structure blocked the neighbor's view and sunlight, ensuring that they couldn't benefit from his reduced lot. The design solved two practical problems at once. It preserved Froling's ownership and prevented the neighbor from taking advantage of the city land seizure.
The feud here was very much about fairness and protecting property rights. The city's acquisition reduced his land unexpectedly, and the neighbor's offer was insulting, implying that the remaining lot was almost worthless. By building the Alameda Spite House, Frawling reclaimed control over his property and created a permanent reminder that the land was still his. The house made clever use of vertical space, and it fit living areas into a very narrow footprint while making the lot fully functional.
Yeah, and this tall structure allowed Frawling to make use of a plot that otherwise might have been too small for a traditional home.
Mm-hmm.
Every floor was carefully designed to provide functional living space while taking full advantage of the limited lot. And unlike some other Spite houses, this one was both practical and strategic, serving as a fully usable home while asserting control over the property.
Yeah, and it still stands today. It's a historical landmark, and it just shows how disputes over land combined with creative building solutions could leave a lasting mark on a neighborhood. His decision to build upward and block the neighbor's access ensured that the tiny wedge of land remained his, and it serves as a tangible record of how property disputes shaped architecture in American cities.
Its visible, long-lasting reminder of the feud between Frawling, the city, and the neighborhood, and it's preserved in brick and wood. The Alameda Spite House remains a fascinating example of clever urban problem-solving from the late 19th century into the early 20th century.
So next, we're going to head to Seattle, Washington for the story of the Montlake Spite House, built in 1925. The conflict began when a property owner offered an insulting tiny sum for a parcel of land from a neighbor who refused to sell. The neighbor felt the offer didn't reflect the land's actual value and clearly wanted to force a quick sale under unfair terms. This led to a dispute over ownership and land use in a neighborhood where plots were valuable and tightly spaced.
So rather than accept a low offer, the property owner decided to build a house on the land, creating a narrow structure about 15 feet wide. The home blocked the original offerer from gaining control or benefit from the parcel, and it ensured that the land remained fully in the owner's possession. By erecting the house, the owner turned an unappealing negotiation into a permanent solution, using architecture to resolve a dispute that might have otherwise dragged on legally.
Yeah, so the feud here was a practical one. The neighbor's lowball offer was meant to pressure the owner into selling quickly, but the owner had no intention of giving in. Constructing the Montlake Spite House allowed them to protect their property while asserting their right to the land. And, of course, the narrow design made the lot usable, converting what might have been wasted space into a fully functional home, all while making a clear statement that the land was not for sale on unfair terms.
Yeah, and the house still stands today. It's a visible reminder of how property disputes and creative building solutions intersect into the early 20th century in Seattle.
Yeah, and this house also shows how conflicts over land value and unfair offers could inspire inventive solutions. It's, like I said, it's a permanent structure. You guys can go see it today. And it was a good solution for this guy.
Yeah, and it remains a landmark. And it's there for everyone to admire the unusual design and the story behind it. It's a concrete reminder that architecture can be used to assert property rights, resolve disputes, and create a lasting record of local history.
Mm-hmm. So next we're going to head to Vancouver, Canada to talk about the Sam Kee, K-E-E building, which is often called the narrowest commercial building in the world. The story begins when the city of Vancouver decided to widen the street, taking most of Chang Toi's property and leaving him with only a narrow strip of land, just 6 feet wide at street level. The remaining lot was too small for most conventional uses, and Chang Toi could have simply just given it up or sold it cheaply, but he had another idea. The city's action unintentionally created the unusual opportunity for a most creative solution.
So instead of selling the remaining land, Chang Toi hired architects to design a building that made the most of the narrow lot. The result was a 2-story structure only 4 feet 11 inches wide at the ground level, expanding slightly above the first floor. The building turned into a seemingly useless piece of property into functional commercial space with offices and small shops.
That's only 3 inches shorter than me. Look at me.
know.
I just stood up to. You guys can't
So
see me
you can't
sitting
even
up,
lay
but-
down in this
Yeah, I wouldn't
building.
even be able to lay down. Me, and I'm short.
So by doing this, Chang Toi not only retained his property, but also used it in a way that maximized its value despite the city's seizure.
Yeah, and like the other ones we've already talked about, this feud here wasn't with a neighbor, but with the city itself. The widening of the street had left him with what many would have considered to be an unusable parcel, but he refused to be sidelined. And the Sam Kee Building allowed him to continue using his land for business purposes, showing that even a tiny leftover lot could be profitable if approached creatively.
It also demonstrates early 20th century ingenuity in urban architecture, where space was scarce and city planning sometimes left residents with unexpected constraints. The building still stands today, and it's visible to anyone walking along the street, and it's a visual reminder of resourcefulness in the face of limitations.
Yeah, that's only 3 times today. But I think now we're going to move on to a very interesting one. I was fascinated when I found out about this story. I think you guys are going to find this the most interesting one out of our entire list. It's the Pink House, and it's in Newbury, Massachusetts. So this is going to be a unique example of construction driven entirely by a feud. According to local legend, the house was built following a bitter divorce. The man was required by the divorce decree to build a replica of his house for his ex-wife, but she did not specify where the new house should go. So this guy took advantage of the vague wording, and he ended up constructing a house in the middle of a salt marsh, effectively meeting the legal requirement, but ensuring that the house would be nearly impossible to live in. Talk about petty.
So the
My God.
location created immediate practical problems. The house was surrounded by salt water, making the ground unstable and unsuitable for traditional plumbing or a functional foundation. In fact, the water supply was drawn from the marsh itself, which made it unfit for drinking or household use. Essentially, the house complied with the divorce agreement, but was intentionally unusable, preventing his ex-wife from enjoying it as a proper home.
Yeah, this was personal. Instead of negotiating or building in a practical location, he followed the letter of the law, but not its spirit, turning the requirement into a form of revenge. The choice of the salt marsh ensured that she could claim the property, but the environment would make it frustrating and impractical to inhabit. It was clever, precise, and entirely guided by the dispute rather than the conventional considerations of comfort or utility.
Yeah, and the house stands as a rare example of how legal disputes and personal conflicts can shape not just the location, but the very functionality of a building. It wasn't about style or space, it was about fulfilling a legal requirement in a way that served a personal agenda.
Yeah, and today the Pink House is remembered more for the story behind its location than for the architecture itself. It just shows how disputes, even legal ones, can influence the built environment in unexpected ways. By placing the house in an impractical setting, the builder turned a legal obligation into a tangible statement about the feud and the guy's quote-unquote clever interpretation of the decree.
So
that is petty.
It is petty. The Pink House remains a legendary local landmark, and it wasn't about blocking the neighbor's view or reclaiming sunlight. It was about meeting a legal requirement while asserting control, proving that creativity in construction can arise from almost any type of conflict.
Yeah, so now let's talk about the story of the Tyler Spite House, which is in Frederick, Maryland, and it was built in 1814. Dr. John Tyler owned a piece of land where the city planned to pave a new road right through it. Rather than simply sell or let the city take the land by eminent domain, Tyler discovered a law stating that a road could not be built through property that already had a structure on it. Faced with the threat of losing his land entirely, he devised a pretty clever solution that would stop the road in its tracks.
So Tyler worked through the night to construct a house quickly on the disputed parcel. The goal wasn't luxury or aesthetics. It was to ensure that the law recognized the land as occupied and therefore protected from paving. By completing the building before the city could act, he effectively blocked the road from being extended through his property. The result was a small but strategically placed house that resolved the dispute without further legal battles.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm all for this one. He paid for that land. It was his land. I don't think the city should be able to take it. I'm not a fan of eminent domain. Anyway, the city wanted to expand the infrastructure, which would have divided his property and reduced its usefulness. But by building the house, Tyler preserved the full extent of his land and preserved the city from unilaterally taking control. It was practical, legal, and a permanent response to an immediate problem.
Its location and construction directly influenced city planning, showing how individual property rights could impact urban development. And every detail was about practicality, ensuring that the law would recognize the land as occupied and prevent the road from cutting it through it.
Yeah, and today the Tyler Spite House stands as a historical example of how legal knowledge and timely action can solve disputes with government authorities. Unlike other spite houses, which often involve personal rivalries or neighbors, this one demonstrates how strategy and quick construction can protect property from public encroachment. I can't believe he built a house in a night.
I know.
Like, that's crazy, but I get it.
It's a small building with a very big story, and it demonstrates how you can solve land disputes and endure for centuries as part of the local landscape.
Yeah. And we've got one more to tell you guys about, and this one, we're going international for it. We're heading to Beirut, Lebanon, actually, to talk about the Grudge Wall, built in 1954. And this one arose from a feud between two brothers over who inherited land along the coast. The property had originally been divided after the parents passed away, but one brother felt that the distribution was unfair and was upset about the views and access that the other sibling gained. So, to assert control and protect what he considered to be his fair share, he decided to take matters into his own hands.
So the solution he came up with was dramatic and visible. He constructed a 14-foot-long wall specifically to block his brother's view of the sea.
Ooh, another petty story.
And unlike other spite houses built to maximize narrow spaces, this one was purely about creating a barrier. The wall physically interfered with the neighbor's property enjoyment, prevented him from enjoying the full benefit of the inherited land, and it was a clear, permanent way to address the dispute without going through courts or legal processes.
Yeah, and building the wall solved the immediate problem. It blocked the unwanted view and established a presence on the land that he still controlled. It's an example of how very personal disputes can manifest in the landscape itself.
And while it doesn't provide living space like some of the other spite houses, it fulfills its purpose entirely. Controlling the interaction between properties and its durability has allowed it to remain a point of local curiosity for decades.
Yeah, that actually reminds me, near us there is a junkyard. There are two junkyards literally right next door to each other. They're owned by brothers. They had inherited it from their father, but the brothers didn't get along. I don't know what the backstory is, but they split the thing down the middle, and they each have separate businesses, junkyards, literally right next door to each other, which is crazy because how many junkyards are there around here? That's the only one I know of. I think there's one in Brockton, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I think my brother went there to get car parts once, like a long time ago, but that's crazy. They work and live right next door to each other, and they don't speak.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
They have houses on properties, and literally when it came down to when they inherited it, they just took the whole property and cut it in half, and there's a big wall going through the whole junkyard.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of, not to get into the whole story, but I told Chris that we should build a fence along our backyard, and it's not to block anybody's view, it's because I don't want to see them. But anyway, that's a whole other story for another day. I don't think we're going to do it. We might, though. I might talk him into it. But that was it, you guys. That was Spite Houses. What did you guys think? What did you think, Christian?
I thought this was. Do you remember that one bar we went to in Key West, and it was labeled as the smallest bar in the world?
I do.
I wonder if that was a spite property.
I don't know. Was that the one
Or
that
was it
was
just
the Red
like
Sox?
Yeah, or was it just like a gimmick?
I don't know. Might have been a gimmick. I don't know. I didn't even think of that. I don't usually consult him when I do my research. I should probably before we go live. He's as surprised as you guys are to listen to it when he reads it. He's reading this for the first time. Like whenever we do a podcast, he doesn't have advanced knowledge. Unless every now and then I ask him for his input, but usually like this, I just put it together because what would you have to add, really, except for the Skinny House commentary?
I could practice pronouncing words.
You could actually. That's fine. I'm going to email it to you.
No, I like to be surprised.
Yeah, he doesn't even know what we're doing until he opens his email. Like it's a total surprise for him.
That's my life, though.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
It works out.
It works out. He goes along with it either way, and that's why I keep him around.
All right, that'll be it for us.
Yes, and if I think of it, I will put a picture on social media. I'm not going to think of it. Spoiler alert. I'll try, though. And that's it.
See you later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile.